Hello there, people of the internet. I never really understood the Fudd mentality because, well, I deal with a lot of old school military surplus rifles, and a lot of these old wood and steel rifles. They're the type of rifles that these elderly gentlemen really enjoy. So as a result, I get a lot of Fuddly people in my comment section, and just in general, that's I got a lot of Fudds that watch this channel because we all like the same things. I also love these old school wood and steel military surplus rifles. But a lot of times whenever I talk about some modern stuff, I hear some things from some of these elderly gentlemen, and a lot of it just doesn't make sense at all. Like, for example, if I talk about the AR and its adoption with U.S. forces and whatnot, there will be a lot of people in the comments talking about how it was a stupid decision because the AR is severely underpowered, and we should have just stuck with our 30 caliber rifles. Whereas those same people will also say that the AR is way too deadly for civilian hands, and we don't need to be able to own rifles like that. So there's really just the logic behind that particular reasoning is one of those ones that makes me scratch my head, and I'm like, how can something be way too deadly for someone like us to own, however completely underpowered and incapable to do absolutely anything? And it's just one of those things. It's like, no, it doesn't matter about the rifle because you're arguing both points of it being too deadly but not deadly enough. It doesn't matter about the rifle's capabilities, you just care about what the rifle looks like. And I'm like, you probably like old school guns that are made out of wood and steel versus your more modern polymer systems, rail systems, lightweight telescoping stock systems, the modern technology that makes these elderly guys uncomfortable, and they're like, I don't know how that works, so it's terrible and I hate it. It's underpowered and fires a 22 caliber bullet. Well, at the same time, nobody needs to own something like that because a Winchester 94 lever action 30-30 will be more than adequate to handle anything that you would ever need to handle. And it's just a really interesting conversation, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like, if I were to break out something like this, I just so happen to have this out here whenever I'm out here ranting. This right here is a 9mm high point carbine. Nothing special about it. 9mm, not very powerful. Even the people of the Fuddly community will agree that the 9mm is basically nothing. But they see something like this and they have a heart attack, and they're like, no, you don't need anything like that. However, if you give them something like the Henry Homesteader, I think it was Henry, or was it Ruger? I think it was Henry that has the Henry Homesteader, which is like an old school Fuddly looking 9mm semi-automatic, which will literally do the same exact things that this tactical, scary looking high point carbine would do. But I think it was Henry that made it. Henry, the company, they definitely know their audience, and they definitely know the types of guns that these people like. And rather than put out something that looks like this right here, they got themselves like a wood stocking, a wood handguard, and it's just designed to look like your older, more traditional style of firearms to attract these elderly communities. So although both of these carbines would send 9mm projectiles downrange in a semi-automatic fashion, they would be more comfortable with the Henry as opposed to this thing right here. And it's just one of those things that, logically speaking, doesn't make sense. They're just completely going after aesthetics. They're completely going after how something looks. And at the same time, they'll argue that, anti-gunners and people like that, they go after things based entirely off of how they look versus how they function. And it's just the pot calling the kettle black. I think that's the statement I'm looking for. So this is just 9mm. This is full metal jackets, 115 grain projectiles, nothing special, nothing powerful, nothing overly eccentric. Whenever I send these downrange, I'm just going to send these into the car because I got a couple of cows over there and I don't want to risk hitting one. So, yeah, we got Kevin screaming in the background too. Nothing overly impressive about something like this. But your elderly gentleman would decide that this right here is way too much that nobody needs to own. However, if you break out something like this, this is an SKS, also semi-automatic, chambered in 7.62 by 39. Depending on how much your Fuddly guy knows about guns, he'll either see the wood and steel and be like, yeah, now that's a gun, or he'll be like, ah, that communist garbage, those things never work, and they're trash, they're rusty, they're dangerous there. Insert your Fuddly excuse here. But for the ones that are against the black tactical 9mm, but all for you owning something like this, both of these hold 10 rounds, but I tell you what, the 7.62x39 is dramatically more powerful and more capable than your 9mm, and the SKS is a dramatically more capable platform than something like a High Point. This right here has an actual locking system. This right here is just a mil-spec produced rifle. If you have one that has a bayonet on it, that might raise some eyebrows, but then again, it might not with the current Fuddly community that we have. If you have something like this, that might raise more eyebrows than something like this, but depending on how much they know. I mean, if you have, this right here is just a good general example. If you have a semi-automatic wooden steel rifle, like if you were to break out an M1 Grand or something like that, then although it is dramatically more powerful than something like this, which would be, you know, scoffed at and deemed you shouldn't have that, it's just these people in these communities with these mindsets, it's ridiculous, and I really don't understand it, other than the fact that I've come to the conclusion that it's all based off of aesthetics. It 110% is based off of aesthetics. And this right here being a wood and steel rifle, with these people seeing this right here, they're just a lot more comfortable with the civilian ownership of things like this, despite the fact that this is a dramatically more powerful and more capable rifle than that little High Point carbine. Yeah, got a couple of rounds of 7.62x39. In this particular case, I only had 5 loaded in because I am poor, and sending full mags of 7.62x39 downrange is just a little too much for me. Or you can go ahead and break out something like this, and basically all of the Fudds and all of the community will be like, yeah, now that's a rifle. I just so happen to have this out here. This is my Yugoslavian 24-47 Chaberding 8mm Mauser. They might, that's alive. Did it land on my face whenever I blew it off? They might kind of discourage the use of 8mm Mauser because, you know, a lot of your Fudds here, they like American weapons, and if it's not a 1903, you know, 30-06 or M1 Grand or 1917 or something like that, then it's just complete garbage to them. But a lot of them would be like, yeah, that's a wood and steel bolt-action rifle. Now that is something worth having. And I'm just like, yeah, this 8mm Mauser rifle, full power rifle. These are 155 grain projectiles traveling at about 3,000 feet per second. This is a dramatically more powerful than our little 115 grain full metal jackets traveling out of this High Point carbine. Like, this is full power rifle ammunition coming out of this rifle. Overwhelmingly more powerful than that little 9mm right there. Speaking of, what's sent around here? Dramatically more powerful than that little High Point carbine. And you can feel it in the recoil. Get out of there, you. But I never really was able to understand the Fudd mentality. I mean, with it all just based completely off of aesthetics, and with it all based completely off of, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Something can be dramatically more powerful and more deadly than the counterpart that they're comparing it to, and yet they'll tell you that counterpart is either not powerful enough while at the same time being like way too powerful, or they'll say, you know, you don't need that, or all you need is this dramatically more powerful system, or whatever the hell. Like, for example, this right here, this, if we had like the equivalence of like, I don't know, some kind of tactical looking decked out 9mm handgun, and you had that and your Fudds were like, oh god, you don't need that with all those bells and whistles, and you got the light and the laser and the red dot and all sorts of stuff on there. And like, all you need is this 1911 bone stock, bare bones, 45 ACP, 2 world wars, insert your Fuddly thing here about all the things that they say. This was good enough for the United States for a century, and it's still useful today, and, you know, insert all of the things. And I'm not harping on the 1911. I freaking love the 1911. I'm definitely a 45 guy. But these people will say that you need this right here as opposed to that right there because 9mm is completely anemic and it'll just like bounce off of a heavy t-shirt or something like that. Where at the same time, having that handgun with all those bells and whistles and features and whatnot are just way too deadly, and it's way too tactical and scary looking, and civilians should not own it. and you shouldn't have that, you should have this, despite the fact that this right here, the 45 ACP, puts out a dramatic amount more. If we're talking like apples to apples, ball ammo to ball ammo, puts out a dramatic amount more energy onto the target than a 9mm round ever would, and that is incredible. So I don't know. And maybe if you guys are of the elderly community and you want to leave me a comment talking about this and give me a little bit of insight on it, then by all means, let me know, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. That being said, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. I'm out of ammo. I got to carry all this stuff back. Looks like it's going to rain. I got to go down to the gun store and pick up a couple of new rifles, so that will make for a fun set of videos. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Like, subscribe, share. I think I already said the outro, but I'll say it again. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Man, those cows are getting way too comfortable around gunfire. Oh, I remember, like, not that long ago, I would just start sending lead down range, and they would bolt to the other end of the pasture here. But now they just kind of hang out, and they're right there, right next to my gun range. And boy, oh boy, does that make shooting stuff a little bit more on the difficult side. But I still shoot stuff. I will see you guys later. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.